conversation here on Rise and Shine. We're beaming live from Uyo, the capital city of Akwa Ibom State, Nigeria. Thanks for staying tuned. We absolutely love your presence this morning. Yes, Mr. Sopitan is on the line. We've done a great introductions this morning of our guest, and we'll just be digging into the conversation. Good morning, Mr. Sopitan.
Good morning, madam.
Good to have you on the show this morning. So let's
Good to
quickly
be here.
take your reactions. I hope your holidays have been good.
It's been busy. I've worked most of it.
Oh, wow. Okay, I'm sure you'll be able to catch some breather soon.
Hopefully.
All right, then. So Seyi Makinde, Seyi Tinubu, I beg your pardon, seems to be a strong third conversation in his father's administration. He's one of the first children that we hear in the news every now and then. At the end of last week, we saw a trending video of a parade held in his honor by a certain ascribed Nigerian cadet network, which Atiku Abubakar said he had pushed an investigation into and found out that they are no legal organization. What were your thoughts, interacting with this, video, and should we be concerned?
Well, concern, I'm not sure. I don't think there's any danger to our democracy or anything like that, for example, to warrant any serious concern. I think it's a matter of optics and a matter of, optics. I think it looks bad for the president in particular, that his son seems to be carrying on without any kind of circumspection or restraint, or discretion, and doesn't recognize, the signals that his actions can send out to the larger community, to Nigeria, to Nigerian citizens, and how that can affect the administration of his father. So if I were the president, I would rein my family in. I would keep them where they belong, either supporting me in the shadows, or, as we have seen in other parts of the world, it's not new necessarily, even though it's not encouraged, but it's not necessarily new to have family members or political figures holding roles in the government of those political figures. So if, for example, if the president wants and he decides to make, his son a minister or the head of some parastatal or whatever, at least we would know that this is the office this guy holds, and then we can hold him accountable. He does not hold any official office, does not hold any official capacity. To the best of my knowledge, we do not have the office of the first son in our constitution. So I don't know why, he's being guarded by soldiers. If as a child of the president he needs security detail, which again is not unusual anywhere in the world, then there should be Secret Service, DSS people in plain clothes following him around, not soldiers. Our military officials are people that are, by constitutional rule, is protection of the territorial integrity of Nigeria from external aggression. What are soldiers doing following Seyi Tinubu around? That parade was not a parade held by soldiers. So I think that needs to be debunked. The parade that he inspected was some sort of boys' brigade or man o' war, type of thing, which is not an official military or paramilitary organization in Nigeria. So he can do whatever he wants. He can, pretend to be a king or pretend to be a mini president. All he wants. It doesn't do good for his father, but it does no harm to us other than, he's harming his father's image and his father's ability to really control his family members. It's not good. We all remember the things, the daughter of the president calling herself the Yaloja General of Nigeria, whatever that means, or the first lady attending official meetings, these things sitting down in a supposedly a security briefing being held by the president. Those types of things don't look good, and I think that the president should do better, just making sure that the roles are clearly defined and his family members stay where they belong. Beyond that, it's not really a big deal. I don't think it's something we should be concerned about.
All right, not really a big deal, but like you said, it's not good for optics because, I mean, he seems to be in a strong fight for conversation. Like, his name is mentioned in breath with that of his father and his mother almost at the same time. But I see where you're going with that. But another concern, before we move forward here, is the brazen display of firearms. We're in the middle of conversations of strong proliferation of firearms in Nigeria amidst all of the insecurity that we have in the country. Now, if these personnel have been, debunked and, denied by the DHQ, as it were, how then do they have access to firearms on such a clear display?
If you look at that video, if you watch it closely, zoom in on that video, you'll find that those guys were not holding guns. Those things that they had were not guns. I make bold to say that I may be wrong because I wasn't there, but from the video that I saw, if you look closely, they're not real guns. They were dots, either wooden. How can an agency that is not an official agency of government be carrying arms in the open in that manner? Such brazen courage to carry arms. The only people recognized by the Constitution to carry arms are our security agencies and then private individuals that are licensed to carry rifles and nothing more. So I don't think those things that we saw in that video. If you look at just watch that video closely, you see that those are not guns. They were wooden contraptions that those guys are just using. It's like children. Honestly, that video for me, I disregarded it because it's just like watching a child playing, in the backyard of his father's house, playing guns and robbers. So this guy was just basically playing the role of inspecting, a guard of honor or something like that, and it's comical. It just shows, for me, the egotistic nature of the people, personalities involved, and I think it's a bit of a shame on them more than anything else. But I would like to say that, in my opinion, those were not guns. If they were, then we would have a serious problem on our hands. But I don't think those were guns. And the military has come out to clearly debunk that and say that these are not our people. So I'm not sure there is anything to worry about. It just doesn't look good for the president, honestly. I think the man needs to do better.
Thank you so much. Thank you. It's important that, just apart from saying, oh, we will not give credits, we shouldn't talk about this. Like you said, it might just be children playing at the backyard of their father's house. But I mean, for optics, generally, this is something that needed to be addressed. Especially, I asked the question with regards to firearms, because a lot of people having this conversation on the social media space are having like, why should there be firearms? And I like it that you pointed out that those are not, firearms, as we can also clearly see on the video this morning. But let's move on to another strong conversation that is a rumor, but we cannot, treat it lightly. Neither can we sweep it under the carpet. In the last 1 to 2 weeks, there has been conversations and ongoing rumors about France looking to establish a military base in northern Nigeria. And last week also, there were conversations about, working in companion with Nigeria to attempt to destabilize the government of Niger Republic. In a few weeks, Niger Republic, Burkina Faso, and Mali will be able to secede officially from the ECOWAS. Of course, even in their 66th ordinary summit, they agreed that that's what they were going to go on with. But these conversations are troubling. Once again, the DHQ has debunked that there is no such activity, whether it's about the base or the stabilizing Niger going on. From your end, what's really going on? What should we take out of this conversation?
So I think, this is a long-standing issue, on the African continent, an issue that surrounds former colonial powers wanting to retain some sort of influence and control over their former colony. So in the case of France, what they've done is that in the West African region, they have actually established a currency union, and a very, very strong currency union at that, the CFA. Now, if you look at the British as well, they've also tried over the years to maintain some sort of control and influence over their former colonies, and that's what the Commonwealth is about. What's happening to France now is a bit of an awakening of consciousness on the African continent, where the people are saying it's enough. Come and start going, to put it in street balance. And France gets the message very clearly. So what I think France is doing is that they realize that they're losing foothold, they're on the way out, and they are struggling frantically to establish new partnerships. Burkina, like you said, Burkina Faso, Mali, Senegal, Chad, Niger Republic, that's five countries, in the West African region that has 16 countries, and ECOWAS that has 16 countries, all saying to France that they're kicking France out. Chad has given an official statement in this regard. Senegal has done so as well. They're saying they're shutting down all military bases. Now, what's the importance and the purpose of those military bases in the first instance? Well, you find that sovereign powers, global powers, generally tend to want to extend their tentacles, their military tentacles across the world, so that they can respond to issues that border on their own national interests in those regions, far away from their own country. So their ability to respond quickly. So, for example, if American citizens are kidnapped, let's say in Kenya, it will be easier for the U.S. to respond practically to retrieve those people if they had a base, say, in Angola, or if they had a base in Sudan. So the United States tends to have bases all across the world, in Asia, in Africa, in South America, and all of that. And I think it's the same approach that France has adopted as far as the West African region is concerned. They're trying to protect their own interests. Don't forget that these interests we're talking about are economic. They're very strong economic interests. So the mining of uranium, and other very precious minerals that are critical to the economic balance in the French nation and in the EU needs to be protected. And that's part of the reason that you see, the presence of France in those regions. Combine that with the need to perhaps push back on the insurgency that's happening across the Sahel. Even though conspiracy theorists will tell you that maybe those insurgents might even be getting passive support, from those in the foreign powers, to keep those places unstable, so that as you remain unstable, then they can have it more easier to exploit your natural resources. So all of that is there. Now, with the looming exit of France, or the reducing influence they have, they've now turned their eyes and looked around and say, where can we go? And for some very funny reason, it's Nigeria that they've settled for. And I say funny reason because, Nigeria doesn't have any historical ties with France. We have ties with Britain, and maybe even some sort of ties with the United States. So what are we doing with France? Now, I've looked at the economy. France is a very strong trading partner for Nigeria. 11% of our exports in 2023, trending at around $2.1 billion happened with France. So that's a huge amount of money, and I guess maybe for Nigeria, it might look interesting to say, look, we need to further develop this so that we can grow the economic impact of this relationship. Maybe we can get some foreign direct investments from French investors and all of that. Maybe that's the motivation for Nigeria. But for France, I think it's them looking and saying, where can we go? So can they set up a military base in Nigeria? I strongly doubt it. I think Nigeria is too big in terms of landmass, in terms of political complexity, in terms of economic influence on the African continent for any foreign power to want to set up a base. I mean, this issue of base, I think people need to understand how the implication. Having an embassy of a country on your soil means that, literally speaking, you have carried that embassy is sitting on American soil in diplomatic terms. The United States Embassy, when you are entering that embassy, you are literally entering the United States of America.
Yeah.
in Nigeria,
Yeah.
right? So setting up a military base is exactly the same. It's except that it's far worse, because in this case you actually have combatants of a foreign power who could become a hostile power in future, sitting right, not in your backyard, inside your living room. So to give the authority for another country to come and set up a military base in Nigeria is extremely unlikely to happen. It's simply too politically complex. So even if, let's say, President Tinubu is romancing the idea and contemplating it, trust me, this Senate that we call rubber stamp, that is when Nigerians will realize that there are interests that are stronger, that will influence the actions and inactions of the Senate beyond, party affiliation. There are alignments, in our political system that goes beyond party affiliation, and that's when we see that come to play. So for me, I don't see how this can happen. I don't think the president will be naive enough to even contemplate it, because it will have a very strong impact on his ability to win re-election in just, we are just on the eve of 2025. So the election and considerations for election is just a year away. By 2026, we're full-blown political season again, electioneering campaigns and all of that. The president will be very careful the kind of things that he's pushing, so that he doesn't ruffle the feathers of his northern allies, without whom it would not have succeeded at the last elections, and without whom it cannot win the election. So you see a lot of things that are happening. Those considerations will come into play, and the president, I feel, is too politically smart to make some of these mistakes that we may be suspecting is considered. A military base in Nigeria, where would they be? Because they can't come to Lagos. They can't come to, I don't think they can come anywhere in the south. So it's likely to be in the north. So if France wants to set up a military base, say in Kano or in Jigawa, and those northern states that share borders with the Sahel, that would be the only thing that would make sense. And I can guarantee you, northern Nigeria will not allow it.
Still speaking to, that's a lot that you have said, but speaking to those who can allow it and those who cannot allow it. Now, there are postulations that the president is under a lot of pressure, both from the United States, as it were. Now again, a lot of these conversations are based on assumptions. Anything that the federal government has not come out to say, or the defense headquarters, as it were, we can't take it and run. But these are conversations that are sitting in our living rooms with us these days. But there are also Nigerians that are saying, hey, can't we just look at the pros, the benefits of, for instance, the United States of America having its base in Nigeria, and we cite, things like security, economic boom, and all of that. But the big question is, what are you willing to trade for those kinds of relations? And for a moment, can we look at, the over 150 nations of the world, where, for instance, the United States has its base? Have they been of more value to those nations as opposed to the back end politics and economic sabotage going on? And will Nigeria be exempt? But what I really wanted to also answer to is, does Nigeria really have what it takes to say no if these conversations go beyond a rumor?
Yeah, I think, they will always stay on the realms of rumor. I don't think that the Nigerian government will ever come out to confirm any such thing. If you ask me personally, I do not see any benefits to having a foreign power on your soil militarily. There's just none that you can justify. Whatever economic benefits.
Mr. Sopitan, is that
Yes.
that amidst the banditry in the north and the new reign of the Lukawaras, as it were?
Yeah.
Don't you think they'll help us fight?
We have a military that is very well equipped, very well funded, and that if you take corruption out of the equation, is one of the best militaries on the continent. Right? They are very, very well capable of taking on this internal security threat on their own. When they choose to, they are very lethal and they are effective. the problem we face with regards to all of this Nukarawa and all of these different manifestations of insecurity across the country, the problem is a lack of political will, a combination of a number of factors. The people behind this activity, this insecurity, are known to the people that should know. So the political will and strength of purpose, conviction to confront them and apprehend them is what is missing, because the rumor has always been, or the feeling across the country has always been, that these are very influential people who walk in the corridors of government. And this is not something, what I'm saying now is not necessarily new. If you remember, there was this video that trended sometime around 2016, 2017, by one lady called Mama Boko Haram, where she mentioned names of certain politicians and people who have been chairmen of our two major parties, people who are currently in the Senate. She mentioned their names and said these are the sponsors of Boko Haram. And those people till today, in fact, are not just walking free, they are in different positions of authority and power in this country, elected and otherwise, right? So the issue with this insecurity is not a lack of capacity on the part of our military that would now warrant us needing the help of foreign military powers, who will then need to be physically on ground in a base in Nigeria in order to be able to render that help. No, that's a no. We don't need that help. Nigeria is a very powerful country, when it comes to these issues. I always say that people seem to underestimate the power and the might of the Nigerian state. It's not a joke at all. The international world, the international community recognizes our influence and our power, and that's why we're always involved in United Nations, peacekeeping missions. We send troops all over the world all the time. As we speak now, Nigerian soldiers are deployed across different parts of the world, helping to secure the world. How can Nigeria, the same Nigeria, need help of the United States or France to secure our own country? No. So I don't see the benefits. I don't see any economic influence or benefits that, having such bases on our soil can bring. Whatever economic interest or benefit you want to pursue, you can pursue that by simply showing, to the investing world, the international global investing world, the benefits, the return on investment benefits that are available in your economy and in your country. And they will come. Capital always follows profit. So show them that they can make a good profit for their money. They will come. You don't need a military base to do that. You don't need the United States to set up a base or the France to set up a base before French and American investors come to Nigeria. You don't need them. We don't need their help to secure our internal borders. We don't need them. We've got a military, we've got police, we've got the DSS, and so on and so forth. So for me, there is no argument that can ever support or justify such moves. And I know, from all that I know, as well-informed Nigerian, well-informed in political structure of the country and the political history of the country, it will never happen. So I think I would like to allay the fears of anybody entertaining those fears. The president is not a foolish man. He's a very smart guy. He knows he can't even go there. He won't. So I think we can just rest our mind and enjoy a new year.
And enjoy a new year. Wow. I hope that a lot of Nigerians will agree with you, Mr. Sopitan. But while just listening to you speak, I'm wondering if for a second, Mr. Sopitan, we wake up sometime in 2025 and realize that these rumors of a truth were no rumors. What then will be the approach of Nigerians? I'm just hypothetically, let's think about it for a moment.
Yeah.
If ever, what do we do? What do we do then?
If such a thing were ever to happen, first of all, I think it's important to understand that it's not something you can wake up and just discover. Our laws will not allow that. In order for that to happen, the Senate must pass a resolution. It's not even allowed anywhere in our constitution, and I think it will be important to get the perspective of constitutional lawyers, which I am not. But from the little that I know, our constitution does not allow anywhere in our constitution. I've never seen that or heard of that, a provision that will allow for some sort of foreign presence, military presence on Nigerian soil. So for that to happen, you would need an assent by the National Assembly, for that to happen. That's not something that's going to happen overnight. So let me give you an example of something that has happened overnight in Nigeria. We just went to sleep yesterday and woke up the following morning and our national anthem had changed.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
that kind of thing can happen, because it's not really a big deal, and you would always find people that are divided on either side of on the benefits and otherwise of that. But when you talk about something that affects the lives of people, literally bringing soldiers, foreign soldiers on our soil, do you know what that means? I mean, look, what if those soldiers act as the advanced troops for an invasion? How do you stop that? So that's not something that you are ever going to wake up and discover has just happened. The Senate will need to approve that, and for that to happen, like I said, all of the different alignments, political alignments of this country will display themselves in their full glory. That's when you know that Nigeria may be united on some fronts, but when it comes to other issues, our alignments always move in certain directions, regional alignments and all of that. So I don't think it's something we can wake up to find. But if we do, to answer your question, then we will have to, as Nigerians, the funny thing, my sister, I suspect that if it happens, nothing will happen. going by what going by what we know of Nigerians and the way we have become, we're docile, sadly, we're docile people. Citizen engagement is very low. I'm a civil society person, and I know that one of the work that we have continued to do and the messages and campaigns we have continued to push out, is engagement. Like, citizens must be engaged with the governance process, without which you can never get good governance and you can never get development and progress. That's the missing link in Nigeria. We're not engaged enough. So if something like this happens, because of our detachment from things and because of the fear of people to enter the streets, you find that maybe nothing will happen, it should just be what it is. People will grumble, there'll be a lot of uproar, there'll be a lot of noise on social media, and then a week later we'll move on to other things. Sadly, it seems to be a sad reality. But in other parts of the world, this kind of thing happens, the country will go up in flames. People will hit the streets. I don't know whether that can happen in Nigeria given our recent history with protests. NSAC in 2020, and bad governance earlier this year, all of those protests didn't necessarily go well for the people that participated in it. So I think people like this are afraid of protests in this country now. And if we were to wake up tomorrow and find that all of a sudden France has a military base in Jigawa State or in Sokoto, I think we'll just make a lot of noise, and that will be that. I hope I'm
Sadly.
wrong.
Sadly, that's because I was really hopeful that you would have a different trajectory, but alas, it's like you thought for a moment and it hit you that, hey, this is Nigeria, we will do nothing about it. But
I'm
like you
sorry. I
said,
have to be real. I can't deceive myself.
yeah, but I mean, your stand to the fact that there's a lot of procedure and system, even via our National
Yes,
Assembly, that would
yes,
have to be followed. Then we'll not
yeah,
see that. I think if we even cast our minds back pre-colonial era, just as the British were leaving Nigeria, they tried to
yeah,
establish a base, but then it was fought at
yeah,
Parliament. So we have
exactly.
history of having succeeded, against the base plan before, and just maybe we will do it
Exactly.
again. But before I'll let you go in just a moment, about 2 minutes. Give it,
Yeah,
say something about the issues. Now, the Nigeria, Niger, Burkina Faso on the front of ECOWAS, they're about to secede, and even allegations of siding with France to cause trouble in Niger is a problem. Remember, they border Nigeria in so many
yeah,
ways. We are talking agriculture. We are talking about a lot
yeah,
of things that might come in. When we are looking at insecurity in the north, there are allegations of influx of these bandits from some of these neighboring nations. It means we're further exposing ourselves to insecurity if this conversation sticks on.
I think for Niger in particular, um, Chad, who are not necessarily a part of the people that are trying to secede from ECOWAS, but for Niger in particular, I think they will be the losers if they go ahead with this. I believe they will go ahead, but they will be the losers. And I say so because, just like you said, we share borders with them. We share a common historical heritage of the ethnic type. A lot of Nigerians in the north have cousins right across the border in the Niger Republic, including our former president. And we made no secret about it. As a trading partner, as a source of employment, as a source of investment, Nigeria is very important to the Niger Republic, and I think to the rest of the ECOWAS region. So if you break ties with ECOWAS, you are breaking ties with Nigeria. One of the first and immediate implications is that you will find out over the next year and a half, maybe 2 years, across the border. Now, you can just walk across the border, like because of the ECOWAS thing. All you need is for your passport to be stamped, and even that does not happen most times. People just really, literally walk across the border because we're seen as integrated. That goes away. It means that if you're in the Nigeria Republic, you're a Nigerian, you have to get a visa to cross into Nigeria.
Yeah.
And if you don't have a visa, you're an illegal alien. So I think that those types of things is going to be the outcome. But unfortunately, the military government in those countries are determined to go ahead, and I think they will. Change is the only constant thing in life, and if ECOWAS all of a sudden loses 3 of its members, life goes on. From 16, we drop to 13. Nigeria will continue to remain the most powerful influence in that economic group bloc. And whoever has exited, well, good luck to them. They've got their own sovereign destinies to pursue. We can't begrudge them if they feel that is the best thing. I, for one, for example, think that it's time for us to leave the Commonwealth. I don't know what we're still doing in that contraption that is a perpetuation of slavery and colonialism.
Wow.
So if these guys decide, that they want to leave ECOWAS, I wish them well. They are sovereign entities, and they have the right to determine how they associate and who they associate with, especially when we are now beginning to hobnob with the people that historically have enslaved them and held them in bondage even after they supposedly received independence. So they may see us in bad light, and they don't want anything to do with us and the rest of their life. I wish them well. They will lose something, but maybe they will gain some dignity and respect across the world and across the African continent. So maybe Nigeria needs to man up and also consider doing the same in the Commonwealth.
Okay, then I hope that Nigeria, puts on a thinking cap at this time, which is really critical in the eye of all the cessations from ECOWAS. Thank you very much, Mr. Segun Sopitan, who is the chairman, Accountability, Candor and Transparency Network, a good governance advocate. Thank you so much for your time on Rise and Shine this Monday morning.
Thanks for having me. It's always a pleasure to speak with you. Happy New Year in advance.
Happy New Year in advance. All right, then. Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your day.